喂，我现在调一下画面啊。Steam VR 的状态下启动达贡 VR，应该是没有啊。等我一下，我还要调一下画面，所以等一下没有声音，没有画面，正常，不要紧张。游戏开得好快啊！那怎么可以这么快就让我觉得很恐怖啊？我旁边还放了英文字典呢。啊？什么？这游戏有简中？就Dagon，很大声呢。这样应该好一点。哇，这游戏居然有简中哎！可是我英文。等一下，等我设定完再说，不然我看不懂。OK， 应该这样吧。来吧，英文学习。原来这游戏有简中，我都不知道。English and writing is under appreciable mental strength since by tonight I shall be no more。完了，看不，太苦了。先把这个拉走。这啥？达贡 DLC 又是 Harry Lake 是什么？这是啥呢？这是他们即将发售的新的作品。这个嘞 ，Little Glass Bottle 即将推出，但是还没推出。我们打工还有更多系列啊！好了，来打一下吧。我觉得我应该一大堆看不懂。Dagon is a faithful interactive adaptation of H.P. Lovecraft's work, focus on story and atmosphere. 好 ，atmosphere 是生巧。Friend not changing in your friendship or support for a person or an organization or in your belief in your principle. Principle 是什么东西？原则吗？忠实。Interactive system or computer program is designed to involve the user in the exchange of information. 交互。Adaptation. You will not find difficult choices, action sequences, or inventory management here, and movement is limited to progressing through locations along with the plot。plot 是什么？好，这游戏哦，基本上限制是受限的啊，都很简单。反正就是大概就是跟你讲，这游戏会有一个很简单，不会有太麻烦的东西啊。
I am writing this under an appreciable mental strain, since by tonight I shall be no more.
During the game, you will encounter interactive elements, so some of them will allow you to continue your journey. Others reveal interesting facts about the original short story, its historical background, and the author. Some of the trivia is hidden. Trivia. What is trivia? Details or information that are not important. 所以这个是类似支线的意思，小收集品。In order to find these secrets, focus your eyes and look for the elder sign. Elder 好像是老的意思。哦，这个东西叫 elder sign， 可是感觉应该不是年老的，什么年老的记号之类。You can also access all the fun facts later. They will be available in the main menu. 有看到这个东西，这是 LB 哦 ，LB 不知道可以干嘛。好。不能转过去耶，盯着看。
Penniless, and at the end of my supply of the drug which alone makes life endurable, I can bear the torture no longer, and shall cast myself from this garret window into the squalid street below.
等一下哦，英文学习台。我有点希望他们其实可以弄个，你知道，大消息，有点难读，因为英文太烂了。Parents have no money， 贫困是不是？一贫如洗，太苦了。And at the end of my supply of the drug， 所以因为他很穷，所以没有药 ，which alone makes life endurable， 困难吧 ？Endurable， the fact that something difficult, unpleasant, or painful is possible to deal with. Endurable. Effective. 我 Google 一下好了。Endurable， 我记得也可以当做什么耐用的意思，可是感觉应该不是这意思。耐用放在这边怪怪的，反正就艰难吧，我猜。I can barely torture no longer， 他受不了了，他饱了。And showcased 什么东西啊？ shall used instead of will when the subject is I or we. Ensure cast 在这里还有特别标记起来，它应该是特别的东西。好，谢谢，他提醒我要睡觉了。Myself from this current window into the solid street below. Garret. Small uncomfortable room at the top of the house. 这是顶楼加盖是不是？阁楼太苦了吧，住在阁楼。Into the scarlet 怎么念 ？Scalded, extremely dirty and unpleasant, often because of lack of money. 太苦了，又小又脏的烂阁楼。Scalded.
Do not think from my slavery to morphine that I am a weakling or a degenerate.
Slavery. 来，继续查。Slavery， 它被奴役吗？ The activity of legally warning other people who are forced to work for obey you. Morphine， 吗啡啊，打错了，我打成 morphine。对啊，吗啡，opium，OK。And then weakening or degenerate to become worse in quality， 变得更糟，退化下降，颓废堕落。Do nothing from my slavery to morphine that I am weakling or degenerate。好，他说不要以为我是个废人，就因为我输这些大麻。吗啡了。
When you have read these hastily scrawled pages, you may guess, though never fully realize, why it is that I must have forgetfulness or death.
When you have read this hastily, said or done in a hurry, sometimes without the necessary care or thought. 鲁莽啊，莽撞之类的，鲁莽、莽撞之类的，仓促。Scroll pages, you may guess. Read this. Scroll pages. To write something quickly without trying to make your writing tightly or easy to read. 草写的意思吧，大概是。哦，仓促的涂鸦，或是潦草仓促的自己。You may guess, though never fully released, why it is that I must have forgetfulness of death. 我要不记 forgetfulness, the quality of being forgetful. forgiveness. Oh, morphine into use in the 19th century, and was routinely 所以这是彩蛋，跟你讲马芬的历史，吗啡，抱歉，好苦。
It was in one of the most open and least frequented parts of the broad Pacific that the packet of which I was supercargo fell a victim to the German sea raider.
Okay. This was in one of the most open and less frequent parts of the broad Pacific. Pacific 应该是太平洋吧。Let the packet of which I was supercargo fell a victim to the German sea raider. 德国的什么海巡吗 ？Frequent 是频繁的。是吧？对啊，频繁的。Warpenny Pacific， 哇，怎么没打进去 ？Pacific， 太平洋。Packet of which I was supercargo. Supercargo 是大货船。Feel a victim. Sea Raider， 哦，海贼。哦 ，Sea Raider。这是货船。哦呦，了长。Lovecraft in the Great War. Around a month after the United States in the World War I. 哦，这个是一战前。一战的东西啊，哦，它这个就没了，之后还可以再看。OK， 没事，这之后我自己看。哦。
The Great War was then at its very beginning, and the ocean forces of the Hun had not completely sunk to their later degradation.
Was then at its very beginning, and the ocean forces of the Hun had not completely sunk to their later degradation. 我好像 degradation 刚有查过。Hun 应该是什么号角之类的，还是啥 ？A way of speaking to someone you like or love, or someone who you want to be friendly to. not completely sunk. 那这个 home 不知道是什么意思，匈奴人吗？感觉是匈奴人的意思。Expressing serious trouble or unable to solve a problem. Listen to their later. Degradation. To their later degradation. And accomplish this. 好，反正这些海军干的不知道什么事情，让他们很落魄。
So that our vessel was made a legitimate prize, whilst we of her crew were treated with all the fairness and consideration due us as naval prisoners.
So that our vessel was made a legitimate prize, whereas we or her crew were treated with all the fairness and consideration due us as naval for 对。Vessel was made a legitimate 合理的价钱。Whereas we of her crew were treated with all fairness and consideration due us as naval prisoners. Were treated with all the fairness. Equality of trade, treating people equally or in a way that is right or reasonable. 公平 and consideration due naval. 海军，好 naval。什么纳粹啊 ？The Huns were Central Asia Norman。哦，对，真的耶。啊，匈奴人有船哦，这么现代的，真的假的？
So liberal, indeed, was the discipline of our captors, that 5 days after we were taken, I managed to escape alone in a small boat with water and provisions for a good length of time.
所以他是囚犯 liberal in different type of respect and allowing many different types of beliefs or behaviors 共和自由开明 was this opinion 啊？ discipline of our capitals. 自由是他们的教条。前面我都看不懂，就算我翻译，我还是看不懂整句在写什么。捉拿者、捕捉者啊 ！That Fridays after we were taken, I management to escape alone in a small ship with water and provision. Procuring for time. 嗯，好黑哦！他逃难了是不是？
When I finally found myself adrift and free, I had but little idea of my surroundings.
I finally find myself reef 漂流吧。But it's not controlled by anyone because of a problem. I had but little idea of my surrounding.
Never a competent navigator, I could only guess vaguely by the sun and stars that I was somewhat south of the equator.
Never competent. Oh. 这边的可视角意味的还蛮多的。Competent, able to do something well. Navigator. Navigator. A person in a vehicle who decide the direction in which the vehicle travels. Never 没有办法确定方向。I could only guess gradually. Vaguely. In a way that is not clearly expressed, known, described, or decided by the sun and stars that I was somewhat south of the water 啊，不确定嘛，就是他猜他应该是向南飘了。Equator, an imaginary line from around the middle of the Earth. Equator 赤道啊，真的耶。I was somewhere south of the equator.
Of the longitude, I knew nothing, and no island or coastline was in sight.
Long Longitude. Longitude. The distance of a place east or west of an imaginary line between the North Pole and the South Pole. Measure in degree. 这个是叫什么精度？I knew nothing. No idea. 看来是要完蛋了。天空上面会不会藏什么星星？不是啊。太酷了。
The weather kept fair, and for uncounted days I drifted aimlessly beneath the scorching sun, waiting either for some passing ship or to be cast on the shores of some habitable land.
Fair， 平静吧。Weather fair. And for uncommon this day. Uncommon. It was drift armless beneath the scoring sun. 那这样都不会干死，这么屌。Beneath the score. Scorching. 那个太阳超烫。Waiting either for some passing ship or to be cast on the shores of some habitable land. Sure, they land along the edge of the sea. 岸边哦。Habitable. Habitable. Providing conditions that are good enough to live in. 哦，可居住的。没有看到任何岸边或者可以居住的岛，太酷了。这样还可以活。
But neither ship nor land appeared, and I began to despair in my solitude upon the heaving vastness of unbroken blue.
Despair， 绝望。Solitude upon the heavy vastness. Solitude, the situation of being alone without other people. 孤立无援啊。Heavy vastness. Helium. Heavy vastness. 上下晃动。Solitude， Solitude upon her heaving vastness of unbroken blue. Vastness.
The change happened whilst I slept. Its details I shall never know, for my slumber, though troubled and dream-infested, was continuous.
For my slumber. Slumber 就是睡觉的意思 ，sleep. For trouble and dream infested. Infested. 什么叫 dream infested? Let's continue. 哇，超级大章鱼！
When at last I awoke, it was to discover myself half sucked into a slimy expanse of hellish black mire, which extended about me in monotonous undulations as far as I could see.
When at last I awaked, it was discover myself half sucked into a slimy expanse of hellish black mire, which extended about me in monotonous undulations as far as I could see. Slimy 有点像史莱姆的东西，滑滑的。黏糊糊的 expanse， 被塑到一个黏糊糊的地区。哦，这是什么 ？Hellish。地狱般的黑色沼泽，迈尔沼泽 ，which extends about me in monotonous， 这是什么东西 ？Monotonous, not changing and therefore boring. Undulations as far as I could see， 它扩张的很远，是不是 ？About me in monotonous undulation， 这个黑色沼泽扩张超大。
And in which my boat lay grounded some distance away.
And in which my boat lay grounded some distance away. Grounded. 它的船在一个搁浅在一个蛮远的地方。
Though one might well imagine that my first sensation would be of wonder at so prodigious and unexpected a transformation of scenery, I was in reality more horrified than astonished.
One might well imagine that my first sensation， 第一个想法 sensation would be of wonder at so prodigious and unexpected a transformation of scenery. I was in reality more horror than astonished. The ability to feel something physically, especially by touching or physical feeling that result from this ability. Would be of wonder is so dangerous. So prodigious and unexpected transformation of scenery. Astonished. Prodigious transformation. Completely changing.
For there was in the air and in the rotting soil a sinister quality which chilled me to the very core.
For there was in the air and in the rotting soul rotting. Rot. soul 腐败的土壤。Sinister making you feel that something bad or evil might happen, but which chilled me to the very core.
The region was putrid with the carcasses of decaying fish and of other less describable things which I saw protruding from the nasty mud of the unending plain.
我怎么起飞了 ？Was spewed. Region 是地形吧？还是这个地区？地区。Putrid. Putrid with the carcasses decaying fish. Carcass of decaying fish. Decay 应该是搁浅吧？哦，我烂掉的鱼。Carcass 是大型动物的尸体。And of other less describable things which I saw protrude from the nasty mud and of the nasty mud of ending 令人不快，没完没了。好，总之这个景象非常的恶心啊，有一些烂掉的约翰大型动物的尸体。
Perhaps I should not hope to convey in mere words the unutterable hideousness that can dwell in absolute silence and barren immensity.
I should not hope to convey in not hope come 获救吧，表达 in mere words of unutterable. Not hope to in mere 仅仅在这些我就表达我的意思，仅仅在这些字就表达我的意思。Unutterable. To bear to be expressed in word extreme. Hideousness. 干。丑陋 hideousness that can 对哦 OK 这东西念起来超怪的 To live in a place or in a particular way silent and very 贫瘠不毛 barren immensity.
There was nothing within hearing, and nothing in sight, save a vast reach of black slime. Yet the very completeness of the stillness and the homogeneity of the landscape oppressed me with a nauseating fear.
There's nothing within hearing and nothing inside the sea. A vast reach of black slime. Yet the very completeness of the stillness Yet the very completeness of this 看他那个跳跳真的鸡巴欸 Stillness and the homogeneity of the landscape approach oppressed me with an nascent fear. not eating fear.
The sun was blazing down from a sky which seemed to me almost black in its cloudless cruelty, as though reflecting the inky marsh beneath my feet.
A slowly reflecting the inky marsh. Inky marsh. Coldness. Cruelty. Black in its cloudless cruelty. Seemed to be almost black in its cruelty. Cruelty. 超大只欸！完了，这什么绝望的场景啊！
As I crawled into the stranded boat, I realized that only one theory could explain my position.
Essay. Loaded. Stranded. Oh, I realized that the only theory could explain my position. Theory 理论。
Through some unprecedented volcanic upheaval, a portion of the ocean floor must have been thrown to the surface, exposing regions for which innumerable millions of years had lain hidden under unfathomable watery depths.
Huh? 我觉得不如我先调中文好了。
So great was the extent of the new land which had risen beneath me that I could not detect the faintest noise of the surging ocean, straining my ears as I might.
这是大陆哦。
Nor were there any seafowl to prey upon the dead things.
火山岛屿 ，OK， 这里是突然从海底升起来的大陆。
For several hours I sat thinking or brooding in the boat, which lay upon its side and afforded a slight shade as the sun moved across the heavens. As the day progressed, the ground lost some of its stickiness and seemed likely to dry sufficiently for traveling purposes in a short time. That night I slept but little, and the next day I made for myself a pack containing food and water, preparatory to an overland journey in search of the vanished sea and possible rescue. 太恐怖了！我觉得我之后再看一下好，我觉得它的英文才是太诡异了。
有一些感觉应该日常生活9成9都不会听到的字，太难了。
On the third morning, I found the soil dry enough to walk upon with ease. The odor of the fish was maddening, but I was too much concerned with graver things to mind so slight an evil, and set out boldly for an unknown goal.
全部东西烂光了。
All day I forged steadily westward, guided by a faraway hummock which rose higher than any other elevation on the rolling desert.
天哪！我到底玩这干嘛？好恐怖哦！哦。
That night, I encamped, and on the following day still travelled toward the hummock, though that object seemed scarcely nearer than when I had first espied it.
是三小超级深海大蚯蚓，海洋之巨。人们认为深海的高压会出现，导致海底不可能存在生命。仍然存在着许多奇怪的深海生物，永不止境的黑夜，地狱一般的极端压力。
By the fourth evening, I attained the base of the mound, which turned out to be much higher than it had appeared from a distance. An intervening valley setting it out in sharper relief from the general surface. Too weary to ascend, I slept in the shadow of the hill. I know not why my dreams were so wild that night, but ere the waning and fantastically gibbous moon had risen far above the eastern plain, I was awake in a cold perspiration, determined to sleep no more. Such visions as I had experienced were too much for me to endure again, and in the glow of the moon I saw how unwise I had been to travel by day. Without the glare of the parching sun, my journey would have cost me less energy. Indeed, I now felt quite able to perform the ascent which had deterred me at sunset. Picking up my pack, I started for the crest of the eminence.
你要确定呢？是没错啦，在晚上好像是一个比较好的选择，反正这里什么鬼都没有。孤独之人，洛夫克拉夫特的生前从来没有被认为是某种愤世嫉俗的独居者，乐天派。蜗居家中。
I have said that the unbroken monotony of the rolling plain was a source of vague horror to me. But I think my horror was greater when I gained the summit of the mound and looked down the other side into an immeasurable pit or canyon, whose black recesses the moon had not yet soared high enough to illumine. I felt myself on the edge of the world, peering over the rim into a fathomless chaos of eternal night. Through my terror ran curious reminiscences of Paradise Lost, and of Satan's hideous climb through the unfashioned realms of darkness. As the moon climbed higher in the sky, I began to see that the slopes of the valley were not quite so perpendicular as I had imagined.
什么要往下看深渊了吗？深渊也要看着我。
Ledges and outcroppings of rock afforded fairly easy footholds for a descent, whilst after a drop of only a few hundred feet, the declivity became very gradual.
你要确定呢？
Urged on by an impulse which I cannot definitely analyze, I scrambled with difficulty down the rocks and stood on the gentler slope beneath, gazing into the Stygian deeps, where no light had yet penetrated. All at once, my attention was captured by a vast and singular object on the opposite slope, which rose steeply about 100 yards ahead of me. An object that gleamed whitely in the newly bestowed rays of the ascending moon.
完全看不到啊！
That it was merely a gigantic piece of stone, I soon assured myself. But I was conscious of a distinct impression that its contour and position were not altogether the work of nature. A closer scrutiny filled me with sensations I cannot express.
怎样？你要对这个石头感到什么情愫吗？恐怖死了！
For despite its enormous magnitude and its position in an abyss which had yawned at the bottom of the sea since the world was young, I perceived beyond a doubt that the strange object was a well-shaped monolith, whose massive bulk had known the workmanship and perhaps the worship of living and thinking creatures. Dazed and frightened, yet not without a certain thrill of the scientist's or archaeologist's delight, I examined my surroundings more closely.
啊，有石头啊，还有恶心沼泽啊，没了。
The moon, now near the zenith, shone weirdly and vividly above the towering steeps that hemmed in the chasm, and revealed the fact that a far-flung body of water flowed at the bottom, winding out of sight in both directions and almost lapping my feet as I stood on the slope. Across the chasm, the wavelets washed the base of the Cyclopean monolith, on whose surface I could now trace both inscriptions and crude sculptures.
那还有水啊！
The writing was in a system of hieroglyphics unknown to me and unlike anything I'd ever seen in books, consisting for the most part of conventionalized aquatic symbols such as fishes, eels, octopi, crustaceans, mollusks, whales, and the like. Several characters obviously represented marine things which are unknown to the modern world, but whose decomposing forms I had observed on the ocean-risen plain. It was the pictorial carving, however, that did most to hold me spellbound.
透过雕塑和壁画讲故事，无名之城、疯狂山脉、日记角色留下的笔记讲故事。
Plainly visible across the intervening water, on account of their enormous size, were an array of bas-reliefs whose subjects would have excited the envy of a doré. I think that these things were supposed to depict men, At least, a certain sort of men. Though the creatures were shown disporting like fishes in the waters of some marine grotto, or paying homage at some monolithic shrine which appeared to be under the waves as well. Of their faces and forms I dare not speak in detail, for the mere remembrance makes me grow faint. Grotesque beyond the imagination of a Poe or a Bulwer. They were damnably human in general outline, despite webbed hands and feet, shockingly wide and flabby lips, glassy, bulging eyes, and other features less pleasant to recall. Curiously enough, they seem to have been chiseled badly out of proportion with their scenic background, for one of the creatures was shown in the act of killing a whale, represented as but little larger than himself. I remarked, as I say, their grotesqueness and strange size, but in a moment decided that they were merely the imaginary gods of some primitive fishing or seafaring tribe. Some tribe whose last descendant had perished eras before the first ancestor of the Piltdown or Neanderthal man was born. Awestruck at this unexpected glimpse into a past beyond the conception of the most daring anthropologist, I stood musing whilst the moon cast queer reflections on the silent channel before me. Then, suddenly, I saw it. With only a slight churning to mark its rise to the surface, the thing slid into view above the dark waters. Like and loathsome, it darted like a stupendous monster of nightmares to the monolith, about which it flung its gigantic scaly arms, while it bowed its hideous head and gave vent to certain measured sounds. I think I went mad then. Of my frantic ascent of the sloping cliff, and of my delirious journey back to the stranded boat, I remember little. I believe I sang a great deal, and laughed oddly when I was unable to sing. Distinct recollections of a great storm sometime after I reached the boat. At any rate, I know that I heard pearls of thunder and other tones which nature utters only in her wildest moods. When I came out of the shadows, I was in a San Francisco hospital, brought thither by the captain of the American ship which had picked up my boat in mid-ocean. In my delirium, I had said much, but found that my words had been given scant attention. Of any land upheaval in the Pacific, my rescuers knew nothing, nor did I deem it necessary to insist upon a thing which I knew they could not believe.
怕啦！怪奇小说的制作。
Once I sought out a celebrated ethnologist and amused him with peculiar questions regarding the ancient Philistine legend of Dagon, the fish god.
Dagon， 鱼人族的深海神子。 嗯，
But soon perceiving that he was hopelessly conventional, I did not press my inquiries.
克苏鲁神话。营销手。你的房间长得好奇怪啊，很诡异的气氛呢，这里。
It is at night, especially when the moon is gibbous and waning, that I see the thing. I tried morphine, but the drug has given only transient surcease and has drawn me into its clutches as a hopeless slave. So now I am to end it all, having written a full account for the information or the contemptuous amusement of my fellow men.
看来是要暴毙了。厌恶烟草，饮酒有强烈的厌恶。
Often, I ask myself if it could not all have been a pure phantasm, a mere freak of fever as I lay sun-stricken and raving in the open boat after my escape from the German man of war. This I ask myself, but ever does there come before me a hideously vivid vision in reply. I cannot think of the deep sea without shuddering at the nameless things that may at this very moment be crawling and floundering on its slimy bed, worshipping their ancient stone idols and carving their own detestable likenesses on submarine obelisks of water-soaked granite. I dream of a day when they may rise above the billows to drag down into their reeking talons the remnants of puny, war-exhausted mankind. Of a day when the land shall sink and the dark ocean shall ascend amidst universal pandemonium.
That's 傻笑，这超恐怖的。
The end is near. I hear a noise at the door, as of some immense slippery body lumbering against it.
天哪！
It shall not find me. God, that hand! The window! The window!
OK。 蛮多没找到的啊，之后我再来找吧。感到恐怖哦。呼，OK，聊吧，蛮特别的，克苏鲁的文化吧，我不是很懂，但我觉得蛮恐怖的。先这样了，不知不觉也12点半了，拜拜啦。